Welcome to one of my MBA classes. Today, I'm going to look into issues to do with the global marketing environment. In our last discussion, we discussed the introduction to global marketing, where we managed to come up with the typologies of global marketing, how organizations or companies move from a domestic marketing strategy to an international marketing strategy, and how it will move or proceed to adopt a global marketing strategy. We also discussed issues to do with the global brands, and we discussed quite a number of examples of global brands, and how these global brands operate, and how they try to create value and standardize, and how they try to adopt to different market environments. Given the fact that uh, when you are in a global market, it's quite complicated, it's quite complex, it's quite uncertain, and it's a sort of a market which is heterogeneous in nature. So, meaning to say that marketers may need to have a different approach in surviving in a global market environment. When an organization decides to go global or to compete in a global market, there are certain variables which exist within the environment, which among them includes economic environment, social environment, technological variables, legal variables, competitive issues, issues to do with productivity, issues to do with customer value, issues to do with relationship management and technology. And it is important now for marketers to understand that this environment changes from one place to the other. This environment changes from one time to the other. Therefore, the need for marketers or marketing students to be in a position to understand the implications of investing a lot of money in the environment. Money needs to be invested in research, coming up with quite informative researches, be it quantitative, be it qualitative researches, so that you don't guess, you don't use guesswork when you are entering um, global markets. The most important aspects why we emphasize on the need to understand the global environment is that there are high chances of risk of failure in global markets. If you don't plan your strategy well, or if you underestimate, or if you use some stereotypes in your strategy in global marketing, there are quite a number of the high risk that you will fail. We do have quite a number of brands which failed to survive in a global environment. You remember in my previous discussion when I discussed about the boom and the bust, where companies were trying to adopt technology by using the acronym E in whatever the name. Companies were just adding the word E so that stakeholders or the consumers who may think that these companies are moving towards the adoption of technology. But come 2000, 2001, 2002, we realized that most of the companies in Silicon Valley did not manage to survive beyond the letter E. Companies who survived during this period understood the market environment in which they were operating. They were not myopic in terms of their strategy. They were not blinkered in terms of their strategies. Hence, we are saying that contemporary marketers needs to not to be myopic when they are engaging or they are moving towards the adoption of a global marketing strategy. It is important for organizations to understand the environment so that it can assist them in strategic planning, decision making, and also in risk analysis. You cannot just go into a global market without carrying out a thorough risk analysis of the environment. So, be that as it may, we do have quite a number of variables or a number of models which are used in understanding the environment for a global company or a company which wants to go global. The first model which we are going to discuss is the Pestel analysis example, which looks at the political, the economic, the social, and technological aspects which global marketers need to take into consideration. These variables are quite important to have an appreciation of them because organizations need to adopt to these variables. They don't change. In fact, organizations do not have control over these variables or over these different aspects. So whatever policy which you may want to create or whatever strategy which you may want to create as an organization, you need to try by all means to align your strategy with these different kinds of models. There is need to align. Most of companies usually try by all means to align their strategy, their vision, and their missions with national strategic visions. In Oman, we do have the Oman Vision 2040. In Zimbabwe, we do have the Vision 2030. You realize that most of these companies try to align them with these visions. And these visions can most probably be broken down into 5, 10 years. Organizations should also do the same and align their own strategies to these aspects. In fact, there is need to understand these different aspects in a much broader perspective. Then there is another model again, almost similar with the post-modern model, which talks about the sloped model. It looks into the economic, social, and cultural variables, legal aspects, political aspects, technological aspects, which are critical in any organizational setup. When you want to get into a global marketing activity, you need to understand these different aspects. Let me dwell a little bit on the social and cultural aspects. This is, it involves the aspect to do with religion, issues to do with language, issues to do with some unwritten norms and values which may exist as you move to global markets. You need to understand the cultural differences. You need to take into cognizance the aspect of psychic distance and how they may affect your marketing mix aspects, the products, the price, the promotions, the language, the aspect to do with the symbols, meaning of words. Because when you are entering into a global market, if you fail to understand these aspects to do with culture, they are high probabilities, or there is a high probability that you may end up failing. Issues to do with technology. You need to understand the levels of technology in different countries. You need to understand the level of adoption, the political aspects, some operational restrictions which may be put in line with the legal environment. You also need to take note of the economy. Is it a developed economy? Is it a developing economy? What are the levels of purchasing power which may exist in these different countries? You really need to take all these aspects into consideration so that your global marketing strategy becomes effective, or so that you are in a position to achieve what we call um, a competitive environment or a competitive advantage. So the global marketing environment comprises of what we call the intermediate environment or the macro environment. The intermediate environment contains those factors that are semi-controlled through contracts, suppliers, and banks, etc. These are variables which an organization is in a position to control or to influence, if we may put it like that. Then we do have the macro environment. The macro environment, this is the environment which I earlier on indicated that organizations should try to align their strategy to the macro environment so that they do not face some barriers or some resistance when they try to implement their marketing strategy. While those intermediate, we are saying that organizations are in a position to influence or to control, like your relationship with suppliers, your bargaining power with suppliers, your relationship with banks, all those kind of things. Intermediate environment is contained with what we call semi-controlled environment. It also includes the distributors, partners, stakeholders. They are part of the organizational stakeholders along with the employers or the employees, in fact, the customers, or these different interest groups which may exist. Global marketers must be in a position to compete in different kinds of environment, and they are supposed to be in a position to learn and to interpret the environment in which they operate. They are supposed to be proactive in nature, taking into consideration that the environment in which the global environment in which organizations operates is quite dynamic, it's quite complex and difficult to understand. Then these are to do with the variables which you need to take into consideration when you are discussing about the economic environment. You need to look at purchasing power, issues to do with the competitive intensity, economy's health, fiscal policies which may exist. All these aspects, they need to be understood in a much broader way. Financial environment, you need to understand aspects to do with exchange rate, issues to do with exchange rate fluctuations, because these aspects do have a very big impact to your return on investment. Aspects to do with the tariffs, import and export barriers, non-tariff barriers which can be put in place by political players, exchange controls, by domestic policies. In Omani, we have what this made in Omani aspect, the Omanization aspect, the buy Zimbabwe aspect in Zimbabwe, and some bureaucratic aspects which may occur along the way as you try to explore your markets. The aspects of culture. Marketers or global marketers are students of culture. They need to be in a position to understand aspects of culture on a daily basis, to understand the diversity of culture, to be inclusive in their nature, because once you understand the diversity of culture, you may now need to be inclusive. When you are creating your products, when you are doing your research and development of products, when you are creating your promotions, understand the aspects of diversity, meanings of symbols, meanings of certain words. This is quite important for global marketers to understand and have an appreciation of. You need to be also aware of what we call marketing mix politics, issues to do with product, local content law. What does it say? Because it differs. Price, government have approved the pricing aspects, promotion, permissible budget determined by local authorities, the place, the kinds of distribution channels which you are going to use or which you are going to adopt is also quite important. The marketing mix politics is quite important in understanding global uh, marketing, because it is the benchmark in which you are going to measure the success of your venture into a global market. We do have different kinds of different types of brands or products which failed to make it into the global market. Maybe because their product failed to align to the local laws, regulations, aspect to do with labeling, aspect to do with packaging. You need to take note of that. Issues to do with price, vis-a-vis the purchasing power of the customers. Issues to do with promotions, your adverts, your communication which you do with your customers, how you engage, and how it suits to the individual country culture, the norms and values. Issues to understand aspects of to do with diversity, and issues to do with inclusiveness in your marketing messages. Issues of understanding the networks of distribution. You may be a global company. You may have used the different strategies, product strategies, price strategies, promotion strategies, place strategies in different countries. But when you are going global, you may need to understand these aspects from a much broader and deeper angle. So we now want to discuss the reasons why companies want to go global. One, it is the aspect of competitive environment. Companies are realizing that to rely on domestic market is becoming very difficult. And due to these aspects of globalization, opening up of trade restriction, the opening up of borders, some of multilateral agreements which are happening, you may realize that companies now want to go global so that they become competitive, or they need to improve in terms of their income. They want to grow. They want to expand into new markets. It's like companies are actually realizing that there are some opportunities which may be existing out there. So they need to go global. Research is showing that 75% of US companies, 75% of total world market for goods is outside USA. Companies like Coca-Cola earn 75% of operating income, two-thirds of their profit outside North America. Same applies with the Japanese companies. 85% of the world market is outside their country. 94% of market potential is outside of Germany for its companies. This kind of information is quite important, and especially for those companies who intend to move to global markets, taking into consideration that the domestic market may only constitute around 25% of your sales, and you rely on these global markets. which are quite attractive. Companies go global so that they can survive, so that they can in a position to satisfy their global customers in diverse conditions, so that they are in a position to preempt and counter competitive attacks which may be coming from the local markets, and also to expand their brand to other countries. Companies are moving towards aspects of diversity. They may want to diversify their portfolios into different market segments. They may want, most probably, to counter these aspects of fluctuations in terms of seasonality. As seasons change, companies may want to go to other markets to increase their market size and also to enjoy economies of scale. These are some of the important aspects which we need to understand in terms of the global marketing environment. Companies need to operate within a global market space. Goods, services, capital, technology, labor, etc. It's going global. Hence, the need for some companies to come up with their global marketing strategies. The reduction, I stated this earlier on, that there is a reduction in terms of restrictions in entering into global markets, bilateral and multilateral negotiations and agreements, free trade agreements occurring in Africa, in the GCC countries, in Europe, in America, removal of these trade barriers and trade restrictions, creating opportunities for companies who wants to expand, to grow, to explore global markets. Strategic fit. Organizations realize that it's part of their strategic objective or strategic vision to go global. Hence, they need to expand their market base. Going global may not be a viable option, for it is an additional cost flow that may result from such action may occur it before the additional revenue flow can be realized from such a global expansion. Hence, the reason why I indicated earlier on that there is organization need to adopt or need to invest a lot of money in research and development, so that they have a clear appreciation of the global environment, or the global aspects or the variables which comes in with globalization. What it needs might be finding more ways to expand its customer base locally at a minimal cost. You may need to minimize your cost. Aspects to do with resources fit. Organizations, as they go, they end up having a lot of resources on their disposal in terms of human resources, financial resources. Hence, the need for them to go into a global market. Organizations must consider whether it has enough cash flow to pursue and sustain a strategy. They need to make sure that they do have the much needed resources, financial, human, in fact, all those different kinds of resources which may be essential for an organization. It must not be limited to whether the organization is able to pay upfront or initial cost of the strategy. It must also include a cash flow analysis that goes beyond the initial investment, because there are some certain costs which comes when companies go global. Aspect to do with growth. Although an organization may achieve the so-called growth, it should be noted that such growth achieved might have a short life. Hence, the need to come up with a strategy to minimize failures in your global adventure. The growth should be in line with organizational strategy, and if it does not contribute to its core competence in the long run, what such growth does is merely making organization looks better from the exterior in a short term, which is not advisable when companies go global. We expect that their vision or their strategy goes beyond what we see, or goes beyond the short term expectations. There is now another important aspect in global environment. We are now going to look into the aspect, the real role of technology. The internet adds a new dimension in global marketing. Internet enables global participation. Nowadays, there are huge changes in the way marketing strategies are applied, the way sales force promote and sell their products. Due to the coming in of the internet, websites, portals, social media, internet is now playing a very important role in global marketing. Hence, companies who are planning to go global, or companies who are already in the global market, need to be in a position to use the internet, to use technology, to interact, to engage with the different customers. It is actually cost effective for organization to adopt technology in their marketing strategy, especially on the promotion, on the purchase, on setting out of the prices. The online engagement is quite important. Communication to our clients, to suppliers, to reach a much broader market share is now being aided by technology. Advanced technology provides a fundamental different environment for global marketers to explore and be in a position to use the different opportunities which may be there. Companies now have got the freedom to locate a service, a product where it can best be produced rather than near its market. Traditional concepts of distance, location no longer exist. Due to globalization, companies are in a position to move out of their narrow um, markets to a global market where they can communicate and engage their different customers at different levels. Internet and the new technology has changed the way of marketing communication. It's like organization now can rely or use what we call the integrated marketing communications approach. Internet is turning marketing methods of the past on their heads and recreating the environmental side of business. Technological change has the power to modernize the way people live, the way companies engage with their customers, capture the customer voice in a much interactive way. Changing and developing the communication channel, aspects of fiber optic digital compression is quite important improvements in marketing. Hence, it is quite easy now for organizations to go global and be in a position to be competitive by utilizing the aspects of the internet. Pursues servicing world markets from a single country source globally to focus on select country markets because of the internet, because of technology, aspects of expansion of the brand, expansion of a product range into different countries is quite easy. And companies are in a position to extend and adapt to different elements. Thank you very much for your time to listen to my presentation today regarding the global marketing environment.